Welcome back to another and the last, and originally this was supposed to be saying apart from maybe a final updated full RadicalSoda Pokédex video, but now that's no longer, this is the final video, so anyway, welcome back to a RadicalSoda Pokédex video. Now if you don't know what this is, alongside everybody else apparently, I need to eat, guys. I've been working on a Fakemon Dex in my spare time and I thought my audience might like to see them. I was wrong. It means a lot to me that the people who did watch these videos really enjoyed them. The artwork alone is incredible. So, not my artwork, that is, the fan artwork. So, anyway, I wanted to give those of you thirsty for more, you know, all three of you, a chance to see the rest of them. So we've got a lot to go through here, over 90, so there's not going to be any live action or skits or what have you. This is purely just going to be for the Pokemon, so I can get through this video and move on to other stuff. So let's not persist any longer dawdling about, and, you know, move on to the first. Now, originally I was going to leave these reworks to the final video, but as you know, that's not going to happen anymore, so I spent a bit of extra time finishing these off for this one. So let's begin with the final rework of the Stoltlines evolution. I wanted to give it another shot, even gave it a name, Fleesel, you get it. I like this design a little bit more. It adds some variety to the body as opposed to the last design I did, and now we can hide in his tail like to camouflage in the snow, waiting for his prey to walk by, or maybe just even to sleep. Either way, I really like him, and let's move on to the next one, because we're going through these pretty quick. Voirlence, which is more of an updated illustration rather than a total redesign, gave her the leg. Also the dark psychic energy spewing out of her wound and under her dress is there as well. Next is Jawile. I know that people liked the original design, but oh, just look at them. And that's it for the reworks. We should get on to the brand new Pokemon. Nukabug! I'm going to be giving every single Pokemon a name this time instead of leaving it blank or introducing the sequel over and over again. So some of these names are going to be really bad. Nukabug comes from Manuka, and you know, bug, as its concept is based on the Manuka beetle. Manuka is a native tree to New Zealand and it grows really fast and dies young, and mainly due to this beetle. It bores right onto it and basically rots it from the inside, hence why it's not a grass type. It doesn't utilize nature, it just eats it. I gave this line a new ability called Bore to make this clear. Its use in battle is when this Pokemon attacks a grass type with any move, or maybe just a biting move, it regains HP, similar to if you would use, you know, Leech Life or Absorb, you know. Now Nukabug evolves pretty quickly, kind of like the Kricketot of the New Zealandonian region, into Nukarunch. I know both of these names make it sound like they have something to do with nuclear energy, but they're the best names I could think of. If it wasn't for that nuclear similarity, these could have been great names. Next up is a Valentine's-themed Pokemon called Crushling. This was originally made for my own Pokemon parody Moemon game that I've been working on in my spare time. So as we go through these, remind yourself they weren't even originally supposed to be Pokemon, but, you know, I chucked them in. Crushling has a split evolution depending on its happiness. We'll go through what happens if you don't get it high enough. Introducing Soulcute. Going from a pure fairy type to a fairy dark type, this Pokemon is what you get when you don't reciprocate Crushling's love. Eventually Soulcute will get over its sadness, instead moving on to anger. Isn't that great? And it evolves into Violentine. Yeah. Violentine is, as you could probably guess, very violent. I don't know really what else to say. I don't know why I put these ones at the start of the video. If your Crushling gets to a certain level with max happiness instead of, you know, none, instead of evolving into Soulcute, it'll evolve into Flirtine, which now that I'm saying out loud sounds kind of creepy. So let's move on to its evolution, Bridol. I thought of the name after the design, obviously. Actually, this isn't even Bridol's initial design. There was something a little more...
Bet I can smash that.
Even though this design I feel is a little bit better than the one beforehand, I still think the name, which is pretty good and works with the theming, could basically force me to make a better design for it, something that suits more. So that's actually what I did, and I know God of War already has the whole wedding dress theme shtick taken up, but seeing as Game Freak refuses to acknowledge that Megas exist, I think the spot's open for the taking. I know she looks just a bit like a stylized girl here, but I just thought of this on the fly when I was making it, and I was like, hey, what if the hair was hard like candy? You know, those Valentine's candies? So I can just imagine them click-clacking around as she walks back and forth. Well, I don't know if she's walking back and forth. She's probably going somewhere. Maybe she can also pop them off as snacks for injured Pokemon, and that helps to heal them. She could be a Nurse Joy Pokemon. Let's move on to the next Pokemon, Edgehog, and I put him in the middle of the road because of reasons I will explain. Unfortunately, with the majority of hedgehogs that I've seen in my life, they've been mostly pancakes on the side of the road. because, you know, well, I think you can guess. I've managed to save one or two of them that were mid-crossing the road by, you know, picking them up and moving them. Not the pancakes, that is, the actual alive ones. But overall, yeah, my experience with hedgehogs has mostly been negative. And kind of depressing, to be honest. So, in the New Zealandonian region, I've made super hardened hedgehogs. Drive onto this boy and he'll pop your tire and be perfectly fine afterwards. Thankfully, Hedgehog is bright pink and, you know, fairly large, so there's a lot of warning ahead of you. If you see it in the middle of the road, you can swerve to avoid it or whatever, and you'll have even more warning if you see its evolution, Minehog. Now, don't drive into this one because its shell-like spikes are explosive, and they won't just be your tires in disrepair afterwards. I'd like to imagine Minehog can curl up into a pure mine ball, becoming almost immovable, which must be pretty annoying for any drivers when it takes up a permanent spot in the middle of the highway because it got scared of all the cars. Minehog then evolves into Roadhog, and I get it, it's a name of a character from a franchise from a company which is bad, but I couldn't think of anything else, so if anyone else, again, third time I'm saying this, names, not final, just if you come up with anything, you can check it in the comments if you wish. Roadhog speeds down the highway and it's a big steel mine ball crushing whatever gets in its way. Well, apart from other Edgehogs, when it hits those at high speed, the only thing that happens is Roadhog goes flying. Thankfully, Roadhogs are pretty rare in the New Zealandonian region. When one is spotted on the road, I would say cops apprehend it with their own Pokemon, maybe with Muddion's Mud, but we'll get to Muddion a bit later. Up next is a regional variant, this time for Oddish, and it's based on a plump and juicy pear. Its new move is Fruity Tooty, which is a grass-type special move that flings fruit at the opposing Pokemon. I actually forgot what else it did. I just kind of wrote it down at the time with I had an idea in mind, but it just completely left after a couple of days. So let's just say it's like the move Present, but instead of like throwing, you know, a present at an enemy, you throw a variety of fruit at them. So let's say grapes do a small amount of damage, apples medium, so on and so forth, until like melons decimate the opponent's HP bar. Oh, and you know, if it throws juicy pears, it heals the enemy instead of doing damage. Oddish, of course, does evolve, this time into Gloosh, which is based on the Nashi pear, which is the best kind of pear, by the way. It's got the brand new ability Juicify, which turns any water-type move it uses into grass-type moves, effectively doubling its stab move pool, but of course, as a result, not being able to do damage to fire types effectively. Now, Gloosh, unfortunately, doesn't have a split evolution, although I might add one for the final complete video, which I did actually, and instead it just evolves into Plumpear, and that's based on the pear tree's blossoms. This is essentially just a stronger version of Gloosh, so take a look while you can, and let's move on to Nasty! As I said, I lied, I made another one. There is a split evolution. It's a big guy, he's got lots of juice, devilish smile. It's the smash or pass, it's a smash every time. Bansheon! We're back at it again with the Eeveelutions, and the ghost type one is first. Bansheon's name is from, you know, Banshee, and I feel it's cute enough to be wanted on one's team, but also skeletal enough to be banned in China. It has Levitate as its ability because, you know, and I think everything else is pretty self-explanatory. I think it's pretty neat, although if it is a bit simple. The fighting type Eeveelution's up next, and I know everybody's gonna say it doesn't look like an Eeveelution, but honestly, I just don't care. Originally, this thing was a freaking Corgi, and that didn't turn out so well, so I kind of changed it around. This is all just for fun anyway, and Clobbion is no different. Big attack, no special attack, it's all the things you'd want in a dog. You know, what you see is what you get. It's just a dog that loves clobbering. Onwards we move into the next Eeveelution, the previously mentioned Muddion. Pretty obvious what the inspiration is here, but as I said before, I think Muddion, along with Clobbion, could be great police dogs. Clobbion for the, you know, pursuing needs, and Muddion for the traffic busts. Muddion's mud is extremely sticky, and splattering it all over the road gums up the wheels of any car or roadhog speeding by. And then I guess they can spray it off the road with a Gloosh or something, who knows. Next and final Eeveelution is the flying type, and I've left it until last because it's kind of shit. I went through many different redesigns, I was just coming back to it every now and again, and I eventually settled on this, and then woke up the next day and said, what is this shit? So again, I did another redesign after I'd already written all this script, and I was gonna give it a new name as well, but right after coloring it in, I wasn't too happy with the design. It kinda looked like Big the Cat, so I tried again, and this one, I think, works a lot better. I called it Clarion because I had the idea it could dissipate into mist to become invisible, and by proxy, you know, intangible. Is that the word? Alright, next Pokemon. If you were here for the first few videos, you'll remember Cranda and Crandabear. Somebody said in the comments, the Crandabear, and I thought it was really good. Somebody also said in the comments that an evolution where there's a rotten cranberry shooting gross goo at people could be neat as well, and I said, yes, I will steal that idea, and thus made a split evolution for Cranda called Crancid. And I know I spelled the brie wrong there, I'm too lazy to go back and fix it. Rotten Gush is its new signature move, which forcefully sprays, you know, rotten cranberry juice at Cranda's foe. It has a small chance... Cranda's foe? I wrote Cranda's foe! What is it called again? It has a small chance to flinch the foe, and if it does, Crancid, that's its name, chuckles, and the opposing Pokemon feels so embarrassed their attacking stats drop slightly. Next up is a favorite of mine. Have you ever wished a grilled cheese sandwich was a Pokemon? Maybe don't answer that. Here's Grylchees. What a delicious little guy, and so polite. Well-baked body seemed to fit perfectly, thank you Gen 9, and he's a normal fire type. Grylchees then evolves into Cheesewheel, or maybe that should have been Wheel Cheese. As you can see, Cheesewheel's bread doesn't get any bigger, but the cheese is exponentially grown. And it will continue to grow as it evolves into Goonami. A terrific and terrifying torrent of cheese, Goonami envelops its foes with its new signature move, Cheese Wave. Cheese, Gromit, cheese! Wallet, the gym leader, would absolutely... Wallet? Did I call Wallace from Wallace and Gromit Wallet? It's early in the morning. Wallace, the gym leader, and he's got like a evolution for Gromitian. That sounds like a some sort of STD. Anyway, Cheese Wave is a medium power fire type move that lowers the opponent's speed, you know, due to all the thick cheese. I know people don't generally like food-based Pokemon. I always hear the ice cream Pokemon being picked on. But I really like the ice cream and food Pokemon just in general, so screw you, I guess. And speaking of food, the next Pokemon would probably like to, you know, eat some. This is great. This is great writing right here. This is what happens when I don't go through my script again later and like edit it. This is the first draft and I am loving it. Here's the new pre-evolution of the Lickitung regional variant, Tungi. Very simple design here, making Lickitung smaller, you know, job done. Speaking of Lickitung, here he is with a new spin to keep him fresh. He's now normal dark type, so and waits patiently for his prey in the darkness until he can't anymore, and he chases after it with his stubby little legs. That's what he's doing in the illustration there. Its evolution, however, is much better at hunting. At night, Tongue Snare will use its glowing markings to attract prey using a, you know, hypnotic sort of rhythm. I guess kind of like how cuttlefish do it. And because of how dark this Pokemon is, usually its prey will only ever see the glowing spots before quickly being swallowed up by its long, dark tongue. Thankfully, people don't seem to be on Tongue Snare's shopping list, but that's probably due to them knowing what a bright green light in the dark means. But hey, if your kid goes wandering off at night to the forest, well, you know, don't let them do that. Another Pokemon not to let your kid near, Mimikyu, Zealandonian edition, because Pikachu isn't as popular in the New Zealandonian region, mainly due to its evolution being much more popular with a certain crowd. Mimikyu's had to adapt, and thus has made 3 new disguises. Crushling, which you can see here, a Raichu, which I think makes it a little hard to see for Mimikyu, poor thing, and Crandabear. Each one of these forms learns a different special move based on its disguise. I think Acid Spray probably isn't the best for it, because, you know, Mimikyu's a physical attacker, but I don't know. Again, this is just, it's not real. This is not a real game. Up next is another regional form, and it's of an Ultra Beast. And I know that's weird, Ultra Beasts can't breed and whatever, but just imagine they can. And also imagine... And now also expand your mind to believe that if instead of being snatched up from the wild by the protagonist in Sun and Moon, instead a Lihlego was allowed to roam free and over time adapted to life on Earth instead of, you know, wherever the hell it came from. Lihlego is just that, a tiny little Lihlego that actually does evolve. And damn it, if the Pokemon Company isn't going to tie Lily to Lihlego, I'll do it myself. Here's Lihlego. It's so fucking stupid, man. I don't know what this evolution is actually trying to do. It attract its prey, maybe kids. That's 2 child eaters in a row. Or maybe it's trying to just mimic being a human for reasons of its own. Maybe it just wants to be loved. Maybe both. Maybe it wants to be loved and eat children. I just remembered that Lihlego, what jumps on your head like a head crab and like takes you over. Is that what it does? Maybe that's what it does. Maybe it like pretends to be a child. It does a bad job, obviously, but it pretends to be a child so it can lure adults close you know, who were like, oh man, little girl, what are you doing here all alone? This is a dangerous place to be. You shouldn't be here. Team Yell will scream at you. And then it goes... sucks their brain juice out. Let's move on before things get weird. Yeah, I wrote that into the script, but like... it's a bit late for that. Shinx regional variant time. This one's pretty simple. Shinx looking a little more fancy here, and even more so when it evolves into Luxio. Not to mention the brand new dark typing everyone wanted this line to have, and the reason this one does is because they're total assholes. Rich, pompous, aggressive, and just quite frankly mean. This line enjoys preying on and toying with Pokemon much weaker than they are, especially Luxray, who sees itself as the king of the castle, as it were, and can only be trained by extremely patient Pokemon trainers. That's all there is to this line, really. I hope the whole fancy look, but dark typing was a nice little twist. Oh no! Look out, it's Zubat! I'm not gonna scream. Don't make me scream, script. Here's New Zealand Zonian! Alright, you know what. Anyway, it's Zubat. Nothing really different here apart from the colors, so onto its evolution. Growlbat, who is crawling and can't fly anymore. Trust me, this is gonna make sense at the end. Here comes Crewbat, like Crucible, I guess? I don't know what I was trying to do here. I'd like to imagine he hops around with his little wings all stiff above him like that. I had the idea for Crewbat to be a sort of symbol or ankh, just in general like a kind of dark-looking symbol that maybe would have more symbolic nature in the actual region. Something demonic anyway. And inside him burns a brightly lit furnace, hence the fire typing. He uses a scorching hot tongue, which is his new move. Scorching tongue, which wraps around the target and doing something. It does something. Maybe it burns, maybe it's like a physical fire spin, and maybe it scares the opposing Pokemon back into its ball. Don't ask me, I'm just a stupid YouTuber. Next Pokemon is based on another New Zealand bird, the Kakapo. The Kakapo is a beefy, flightless parrot that's critically endangered. I've never actually seen one in person, but it's that bird from the meme, you know the one. I called this little guy Kapopo because... because I couldn't think of any better names. I know there's better names out there. And its evolutions actually changed what bird it's based on twice. Kind of like the pick-a-peck line going from a woodpecker to a toucan. As I've said a few times, there's a ton of native birds in New Zealand, and I can't make a unique Pokemon for each one, or else every Pokemon would be a bird. This is Chikia, and as you could probably guess, it's based on the Kia parrot. Now, I have seen these in person, and by golly, they are cheeky. The name's not for nothing. They're smart, they're easily bored, they'll strip the rubber from your car windshields because, haha, that's a fun thing to do, I guess. I remember when my class went to Arthur's Pass back when I was about 12 or 13, I think it was. We'd seen a Kia on a big garbage bin, and one of my classmates said, hey, can I go near him? And the guide was like, you probably shouldn't, but he held out his hand to him, and the Kia just nibbled away on his fucking hand. That's not really an exciting story, was it? It bit down hard. It didn't nibble, it bit. Why did I say nibble? It bit down on his hand, through his glove and hurt him. I don't know why I said nibbled. It's like a sensual moment for the Kia, I guess. Anyway, this particular hobby of the Kia, not the glove nibbling, but the rubber stripping, has led me to create a signature move, Extraction. A low damage dark move that always crits. Like Frost Breath. Cheekier then evolves into Kakackle, this bird being more so based on the Kaka. I don't actually know too much about the Kaka off the top of my head. The New Zealand Kaka lives in lowland and mid-altitude native forest. Well, there you have it, folks. Buneary's up next, at least its regional variant. Because it's a snow bunny now, I think I could have given it maybe a lighter color for the fur instead of brown, but it having white snowy fluff does work well, I think, especially for an ice type. It's not often you see a Pokemon based on snow rather than ice, and well, when you do, people complain about it, so, you know. Now, I know you're all clamoring to see what Lopunny looks like, but I'm gonna have to disappoint you because it's not what you think. Just kidding, it's exactly what you think! Notable move here for Lopunny is Frozen Foot, a high damage move that, if missed, does damage to the user. Yes, this is Ice-type high jump kick, sue me. Okay, now here's an interesting one, a Tangela variant. This might be my favorite Pokemon of the whole region, so let me know what you think. This one has Medusa as the main inspiration, but you don't really see that until the evolution. The typing will make sense later, okay? And by later, I mean literally right now. Tangusa, the evolution, is here. Hi. And even though the name sounds like it's got a Tangusi going on, no, it's more so based on Medusa. And Medusa was, well, she didn't actually exist or anything, but in Greek mythology, she was one of 3 Gorgons, who all had snake for hair and with a simple glance could turn people into stone. So you get the typing now. The dragon type I just feel kind of suits such a creature, Gorgon. I mean, just flip a couple of the letters around and there you go. Tangusa also has a couple of special moves, one of which is in stone. Turns the enemy Pokemon into the rock type. This allows Tangusa to use its other special move more easily, Splitting Gaze, which is another rock type move, or maybe it should be dragon type. That's super effective against the rock typing. Like how Freeze Dry is super effective against water types, even though usually ice types aren't. Next up is another little dragon-type Pokemon, and it is meant to be this ugly, I swear. Like Magikarp, this is a weak little guy you have to work hard at training until it evolves into something more powerful all at once. It's not actually a poison type yet. I feel like the sweat coming from it and the toxins within its body aren't yet potent enough to actually do any harm to anybody. Well, not until he evolves into Noxusaur. I don't know if I'm super happy with this design. It's very... I was originally going to say Gen 1-ish, but even then I think it just looks a little... It's lacking something. I had some ideas for a new ability and move, the former, which I've forgotten, I'm going to be honest. I think Noxious Fluid was meant to be like a free layer of toxic spikes automatically spread when Noxusaur enters the field, but it might have just as easily been like just a more powerful liquid ooze, maybe dealing more damage and toxifying the opposing Pokemon upon using an absorption move like Absorb or... Well, that's the most obvious one. I do, however, remember Radiation. It was a poison-type move which can inflict toxic straight through any shields. Protect, substitute, anything you can think of. Even steel and poison types can't escape it. Sounds a little busted, but hey, that's kind of meant to be the point here. Up next is another regional variant, and let's be honest with each other, Skitty kind of sucks. I like Skitty. I want to be able to use Skitty in my Pokemon team. But even in a regular playthrough, no Nuzlocke or anything, Delcatty just ain't cutting it, man. So, fighting-type Skitty here is its chance to finally be useful. It doesn't look all that different, mainly because, as I said, I like Skitty, but the evolution, which is still called Delcatty because why not, is where the majority of the changes take place. Feral Delcatty here I feel is still cute, but now also cool, not to mention its new move called Deep Fang, because I couldn't think of anything else, which is a fighting type move which also has a chance to paralyze the target. Like Focus Palm. And I didn't realize that upon writing the script, so... we're just gonna have to say that like maybe it's better than Focus Palm, and it goes straight through the opponent's defenses, just like Chip Away. And maybe it's a bit stronger, I don't know. Next up is another regional variant, and I know there's been a lot of regional variants, but they are a lot of fun to make, and I think people are more interested in the regional variants anyway. Tinkatink was an instant classic in Scarlet and Violet, and many League of Legends players noticed some similarities between it and the character called Poppy. Obviously, I don't think Pokemon copied League of Legends or anything, but why don't we make another Tinkatink variant based on another League of Legends character? I think that could be fun. This safety scissors-wielding Tinkatink evolves into a much more dangerous Tinkasnip, which, well, you know, children running with scissors is the theme here, I guess. And then, that Pokemon evolves into Shinxia, which, well, if you're a League of Legends player, you've already guessed the inspiration a while back, but as you can see, it's based on Gwen from the aforementioned League of Virgins. Shinxia here has a new move too, Snip Snip, which is the Ghost-type Super Fang, basically, which halves the enemy's HP. It was very simple and it's to the point. Next up is a Pokemon based on my silly little character I made a while back, which is supposed to be a VTuber mimic. You know, bright and colorful so it can lure in and kill... I'm not having another child-eating Pokemon. Anyway, so that's where the inspiration starts and ends. It's really that simple. We've got Weestar here, and then it evolves into a Starfeel. I want to point out the mouths on this Pokemon aren't actually its real mouth, it's just a trick to lure people, and it's more like a squid or octopus. Its mouth is under all those tentacles. Starfeel then evolves into Scream Puff, the pseudo-legendary of this region. Its new ability is Unleash, because, haha, funny Sonic Unleashed reference. When Scream Puff gets down to half health, it transforms into its true form, which I'll show on screen right now, because I have drawn it, even though the script says I haven't drawn it. I drew it after I wrote the script, so here it is, and it also gains a boost to its attack stats. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I know what you're thinking, wow, RadicalSoda, this design is so Pokemon, it would fit right into the official games, and thank you so much, I do appreciate it. Up next is Helioloptile. Bit of visual whiplash there for you. Forget normal electric type, this Helioloptile is... Helioloptile? I think that's a great name. Let's change his name to Helioloptile. Anyway, this guy's pure electric. And you're probably thinking, holy shit, RadicalSoda, you've done it. You've created the most useless regional variant of all time. And yes, I agree, but Heliolisk becomes somewhat different. It's now an electric fighting type because holy crap, apparently there's no electric fighting types yet? Like... I always thought Zeraora was one, but apparently not. Alright, I double-checked, and apparently Iron Hands is a fucking electric fighting type. So thanks, Game Freak, for making a shitty-looking electric fighting type. Well, I was sitting here thinking I had the bee's knees of all Pokemon, but no. Fucking fat guy. Anyway, Heliolisk isn't anything too fancy. I just had this little thought which eventually grew into this idea. It seems quite a few of my Pokemon regional ideas. Pokemon, I have just given up saying words at this point. Anyway, a lot of the designs are just kind of feral. I think you can, like with Delcatty and Melodic, I guess. It's a lot of feral Pokemon. Next up, here we go. Barboach in ice. Chuck him in your martini, chuck him in your drink, let him swim around a little bit. Now an ice ground type, Barboach slides around and slaps its foe with, you know, the top half of its body, or the bottom half. Depends on the move it's using, I guess. This idea was thought up because frozen mud exists, and that's... Barboach evolves, of course, and instead of transforming into Wishcash, Wishcash? Instead it evolves into King Skipper. I really like this guy. He's a big old fish in frozen mud and, well, I just think he's neat. New ability, Frozen Crust. Not the kind of a frozen pizza, but the outer layer of his icy mud. This ability is essentially Flame Body, but for the frozen status. If the opposing Pokemon hits King Skipper with a move that makes contact, there's a chance for them to freeze on the spot. Up next is another fish. I always felt that Finneon got absolutely shafted in every game it was in. Kinda like the Skitty of the Sea, to be honest. I want to like Finneon, again, but, you know, it sucks. This Finneon variant is a water flying type, and yes, that does mean electrical moves absolutely blast its balls off, but hey! New ability, Rubber Scales, which completely negates the electric type moves. What's that? Is that too strong? I don't care. This Pokemon's had it too rough for too long. Even Lumineon gets an upgrade with its new and improved stats and shitty design because I'm not really fully happy with this one. I had a different one before, it was barely different. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. Sorry, I'm running out of ways to transition into the next Pokemon. I just keep saying like up next, like I'm some sort of TV advert. I had a joke here saying Nudibunch here is based, and then like it cuts off. Because then I would make a joke and say, that's it, he's based. He's not based on anything, he's just based. That's so cringe. I can't believe I wrote that in. I think this was when I was at 2 AM trying to write the script. Nudibunch evolves into an actual water-fire type. And no longer will we be stuck with this overgrown pipe system bastard as the only water-fire combo. I'd like to think it's got so much heat inside it's leaking out here. You can see it right there, yeah. But when it evolves, all that heat goes into its super neat and totally Gucci. I wrote fucking Gucci sleeping bag. Like shit, man, it's 3 AM. I'm just reading this now. I was like thinking of a fried shrimp or like tempura, hence the name. Tempura, like temperature and tempura. Oh my god, so clever. Ha 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 ha. Up next is Golf Baby, a pure psychic type, still looking mostly the same, but hey, check it out, evolution time, baby. Gothita is now a psychic ice type. I guess I couldn't bear it that the regional Smoochum line lost its ice typing. Either way, I think this variant suits the ice typing a little bit better. You'll especially see it now with the final evolution. But in the meantime, you can see Gothita's new ability, Frosty Touch, not to be confused with Frosted Tips. Why would that be confused with Frosted Tips? Where if Gothita attacks its foe with a move that makes contact, there's a small chance for them to freeze. King Skipper and Gothita here have the whole frozen version of Poison Point and Poison Touch. I'll admit the frozen status is a bit iffy on fairness, so maybe instead of like the base 20% chance Poison Touch has, we'll lower it down to like, I don't know, 15? I don't know why I'm getting so hung up on numbers here, it really doesn't matter. Mind Scrambler is Gothita's new move. There isn't anything too special here, I just realized that there aren't any really weak psychic type moves that do physical damage, so this is what Gothita needs to do, seeing as it's a physical type, psychic type. I'd imagine Mind Scrambler is just like a physical confusion. You know, like 50 damage, chance to confuse. Gothita, I think, looks really cute. Not much to say here, really. I hope you like it. Hee hee. Oh. I also hope you like Budew here. Not really any big differences, so why would I think people actually really like this design? It's just Budew. It's Budew with slightly different bottom half. What am I? Anyway, just a pure grass type, no poison type because its evolution isn't poison type. Then it evolves into Rosalia. Do you notice a resemblance? That's the joke. I turned Rosa from Black and White 2 into Rosalia. There's no Rosa Red, but now that I'm thinking over it, I think it could be funny to make like a third evolution based on that meme. You know the one. And hey, it'd only be like, what, the 4th Zealandonian Pokemon with boobs? Never gonna have too many of those, am I right? It's like this region was made for Smash or Pass. Is that still relevant? Ha ha ha. Ho ho ho, Smash or Pass. Oh boy, Markiplier. Oh boy, just made a new video when I recorded this today about Smash and Pass. Apparently it is still relevant. Shit, do I make the design? Do I do it? What can I make about a camera looking at someone's boob? That's not a Pokemon design. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Coming up is an all-new Pokemon, Muckfish. Why am I getting so excited over Muckfish? I said in a previous video I needed a predator for Love Disc, and here it is. Now, have you ever seen a stonefish hunt? Well, I can't show it here because National Geographic doesn't like you using footage, even if you credit them. I get that that doesn't really matter, but like, I had to cut a portion from my last video. Based on the stonefish, Muckfish here hides in the sediment on the seafloor and waits for its prey, Love Disc, to pass by, gulping it down in a single chomp. It has the new ability Toxic Point, which is just Poison Point with toxic instead of just regular poison. Stonefish are incredibly venomous. Standing on them usually leads to, you know, being unalive. They've got a line of spikes hidden in their dorsal fins that inject the venom, hence the little spike on Muckfish's back. Muckfish does evolve into Suckfish, because I couldn't think of anything clever here, and the fish does indeed suck. Suckfish ain't too fast, but its incredible sucking power allows it to sneak up on unsuspecting Love Disc and inhale them into its gaping maw. A maw with a very cool ability called Gulping Maw. I've said maw one too many times now. This ability activates when Suckfish enters the battlefield. Any and all stat boosts or drops are sucked into Suckfish, even your teammates, and they're neutralized completely. It's like a soft reset for any sweepers that have managed to set up on you. I thought about maybe having Suckfish gain the stat boosts and you know, the negative stats as well when it sucks them in, but I don't know. I think that ability the way it is now would probably be strong enough, even meta-defining. Ooh, there's a fancy word for you. Anyway, I really like this guy. I hope you guys do too. Next up is another new one, Voirlence, based on greenstone or jade. Greenstone has a lot of cultural significance here in New Zealand, and I wanted to add it in. Nowadays you can find a lot of jewelry made from it, although I think in the past the native Māori used it to make some sort of weapon, little slappy thing. Anyway, I wanted the jewelry slash weapon and natural greenstone to be represented, so I gave Voirlence a split evolution. Let's look at the natural greenstone one first, Greenstall, because that sure is a name. It's a fighting rock type, and I think the only other Pokemon with this combination is Terrakion, and that's a legendary, so like, I'm gonna count this one as a win for the old Radster. That's that for him, so let's move on to its other evolution, Soul Jade. I wanted to make this one look like jewelry, but also like it could do some nasty damage, you know, like the weapon that Māori used, even though it's nothing like that. But when I showed this to my friends, they said it looked like a certain, you know, bad symbol, which will remain unnamed for fear of demonetization. And I mean, I kind of see it now. Let me know what you guys think. I don't know. It was just meant to like spin around, you know, like Starmie, but if it's too distracting, I could always change the design. If you look at the silhouette, you can't even really see any resemblance to the said unnamed symbol. This evolution's a rock psychic type, I think Solbrook and Lunatone are the only other ones of that type, so they kind of suck, so I hope you guys like this one. Next up is the Ditto regional variant, and you might be asking me, what the hell is this? Who needs a regional variant for Ditto? And this idea was thought up a while back, and while it would never, ever be included in any real Pokemon game, I thought it was kind of funny, so I added it in. Now let me ask you this. If Ditto was real and could transform into anything, or anyone, what do you think its trainers would do? And there you go, you've already thought of it. And Ditto caught on! So eventually, through, I don't know, evolution, wanting to please its trainer, maybe a mix of the two, it slowly evolved into what they think you want to see. Ditto is halfway there, but not quite, but you see where this is going. I'm so sorry for what you're about to witness. Say hi to Ditto! It's not even a Pokemon. With this final evolution, Transform changes into its new move, Total Attraction. Oh yeah, that's... Oh, am I down bad? Is that what's happening here? Anyway, this move is basically the move Attract, but it always succeeds no matter the gender or non-gender in certain cases. This is, yet again, another Pokemon with boobs. I know! I have a problem! But maybe this Ditto could have like a male form too, depending on its trainer's preference. Like you can pick whether or not you want to see it as like a super fit, muscular man with abs. I think that could be funny. Up next is a pre-evolution for Plusle and Minun. I figured these two are so similar they could just be cut from the same cloth and create Plumen. Depending on Plumen's ability, they'll evolve into either Plusle or Minun, shown here. Take a gander. I drew them so you can see them for at least 3 seconds. And then surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, why would I end it there? They both get distinct evolutions. Plusle evolves into the very religious Crushling, with this new additional ghost typing because of the Holy Spirit, and cool new ability, Indoctrinate. While Crostle is on the field, I don't know, did I say Crushling or Crostle first? Anyway, while Crossle's on the field, every other Pokemon slowly loses HP after every turn, sort of like Leech Seed, or a burn, I suppose. Minun, on the other hand, evolves into Brawlin, and along with its new fighting typing, it also gains Hype Up, an ability that increases its and its allies' attack stat when it enters the field. And then Suckfish comes out and gobbles it up. Look at that, he's still useless. Pudum's the next Pokemon on the list, and it's based on the Putu bird, which I find very cute, but also very scary. Kind of like a sexy Slender Man. This pre-evolved form is quite weak, sort of similar to Oozi, I suppose, but unlike Oozi, this little guy eats the corpses of other Pokemon that his parents spit up for it to eat. Fun! And speaking of its parents, here's what they look like. And that is a big attack stat. Upon further research, I have actually realized that Mega Mewtwo X and Mega Heracross and Kartana, what the heck, actually have higher attack stats than Putu here. These little squares represent 10 stat points each, so Putaru here, Putaru has 180, which is not what I intended. I wanted this thing to be the strongest. So just imagine it has like over 200 attack, okay? And that is because its ability, Uncontrollable, takes it down a notch, kind of like slacking with its ability Truant. This Pokemon is incredibly aggressive and has a brain the size of a walnut, so often it can't tell the difference between friend or foe. In double battles, this Pokemon may attack your side of the field at any time, leading to a huge disadvantage. Or if you're doing a single battle, it might just not listen to you, it might go back in its Pokeball, or force out another Pokemon you had no intention of using. I don't know, like leading to that Pokemon being knocked out in its place. Or maybe it'll just attack you, ending the battle, and the whole game, I guess, because you're dead. I think it's fair to say this Pokemon would be permabanned in Pokemon contests. I don't think it particularly cares about looking pretty. And I did originally have a different design for this guy, although I thought the blood was a little over the top, so instead I made just the whole design red. Up next, good lord, something new approaching the vicinity and your eyeballs now is a new Pokemon called Tamago. This little guy is based on the titular Tamagotchi, which I had as a child and very much so loved until I slammed it into a car door. I slammed my penis in the car door. Tamago's name comes from, you know, Tamagotchi and Tamago, the Japanese word for egg. And that's, you know, because it's the shape of an egg. Tamago evolves into Gotcha, a play on Tamagotchi and Gotcha, which is what comes up when you catch a Pokemon. Gotcha has escaped its little egg and now uses it as a shield, sort of like Mega Sableye, but I guess he doesn't exist anymore, so this is a completely new idea. Gotcha then evolves into Kanagotchi, my favorite out of the bunch, even though it sounds like some sort of like ravioli. This Pokemon has a lot of cannon and laser moves, and the keen-eyed of you might just have noticed with each evolution the version of the Tamagotchi also evolved. Tamago is version 1 or 2, Gotcha is V3, and Kanagotchi is V4. You can tell by the little antenna poking out the top, which does absolutely nothing, but looks pretty cool. Obviously, this design would never fly in a real Pokemon game because, you know, legality, but as a fan creation, I think it's neat. Trapworm. Have you ever wanted Five Nights at Freddy's in your Pokemon game? Well, that's great! Here's a jump scare! And that's it, that's the whole thing. Trapworm here is based on the underwater worm thingies called bobbit worms, but in this case it's more of an earth worm, rather than another water type, you know, we've got plenty of those. Its new move, Jump Scare, acts differently depending if the Pokemon opposing it is swapping out. Kind of like Pursuit. Trapworm at the start of the turn will wait underground, and if the opponent swaps their Pokemon out, it'll burst out of the ground, dealing massive damage. But if they don't swap out, instead, depending on what move they use, if it's an attacking move, Trapworm will recoil with big damage, maybe not as big as if the opposing trainer would swap out, but still good damage. But if they use like a healing move or something, Jump Scare fails to activate, so Trapworm just loses a turn, essentially. Your screen will now change to show the Pokemon Miltank, a Miltank pre-evolution. I've always really liked Miltank. Wait, does this make like the 6th Pokemon with boobs? Does Miltank count? Not much to say about Miltank here, other than the fact that it shares the same farm as the Lumchop line, so prepare yourself to see some changes to Miltank. Like mulled wine, because they're sneaking the berries from Rambar's horns on the sly. Thankfully, the milk, or wine milk it produces, is very tasty, so farmers sell it as an alcoholic alternative to get your calcium and keep your buzz going all day. And that's not all! Miltank deserves an evolution, at least I think so. So Miltank evolves into Bulltank. I very much so like this design, and I think you all will too. It shares its paddocks with the Lumchop family, like I said before, and Bulltank and Rambar often butt heads. But in Bulltank's case, it's more so to get drunk rather than having actual beef. Cow pun right there. And we're on to the legendaries. I have a trio, like the bird or cat trio, and 2-box legendaries ready. Although the legendaries, I will admit, could use some heavy work to make them better, and I did actually decide to scrap them and make new legendaries, but I'll let you guys see them just because I spent time on them, okay? So let's start with the trio, starting with Contaquip. It's such a mouthful, it just doesn't work. This trio is based on my little characters Quip, Poppy, and Petitata, so Well, obviously this one is based on Quip. The story behind Quip is that she was a regular girl who's been infected with some sort of parasite, but in this universe she's a Pokemon infected with some sort of parasite. Can you guess what Pokemon that is? It's pretty obvious. Its new ability, Infection, is a bit of a strange one. I had some ideas. I was thinking the parasite is slowly eating away at Quip, thus having it lose HP after every turn, but in the process scattering its parasites everywhere, creating like a battleground where every Pokemon is infected, leading to some sort of debuff. Or maybe, and this one's kind of wacky, just bear with me, let's imagine Quip's attacks have the chance to infect the opposing Pokemon with its parasite, kind of like a status move, but it doesn't do anything. Well, not yet. If Quip is then knocked out and the opposing Pokemon faints somehow before being recalled back into its Pokeball, it's taken over by the parasite, regains its HP, and swaps sides, and is now Quip again, just a new Pokemon. Quip isn't the outer vessel per se, it's the massive worms and stuff inside. I think that would mean every single Pokemon would need an infected form, but I think it would be pretty neat. Poppy's up next is Poppy, like prosperity. Number 7! Give it up for boobs, number 7! Poppy's gimmick is based around money. Her ability, monetize, maybe demonetize, I don't know, just spitball in here. So when Poppy's in play, an automatic counter starts going down over each Pokemon's head, like, you know, countdown. After every turn when this counter goes down, every Pokemon with the counter on top of their head donates money to Poppy, just in a little animation. And in the main game, this money would be collected after the battle. After maybe, I would say, 3 turns, the Pokemon runs out of money and is forcefully kicked out of the battle. Or, you know, knocked out in simpler terms. Your foe can retreat and send out a new Pokemon to restart this timer, but it is always active. So, not sure how long it should be. 3 turns seems like too many sometimes, but like, 2 means Poppy could get lucky and like double protect for an easy knockout. Then again, if you go for the double protect, you're risking your opponent getting a free switch in, so. The final member of this trio is Petty Trapper. As you can probably see, this trio is based on Predator, the Prey, and the Hunter. Petty Trapper taking the Hunter part in the scenario, obviously. Petty Tartar's new ability, Target Locked, activates, surprise surprise, when she enters the battle. In double battles, she targets randomly one of the 2 opposing Pokemon, and from then on, as long as she's on the field, moves have a higher accuracy and higher chance to crit on that specific Pokemon, from both Petty Tartar and her ally. In singles, same thing, maybe just the chance goes down a little bit, like, you know, the crit chance just a little bit less. Or maybe it stays the same, who knows, she's a legendary, so who cares. Overall, I'm really happy with these 3. I think because they're based on previous characters, they all have pretty strong designs, or at least recognizable designs, at least I think so. I can't really say the same about my 2 boxed legendaries. As I said before, I did, you know, rework them into 3 different legendaries. So when we're going through these, just remember, they're not actually in the game. If you like them, that's great, but like, well, there isn't a game. I don't know why I said they're not actually in the game. They're not in the region, but you know, who cares? But you just go through them, and if you like them, that's great, that's cool, and you get extra legendaries. How neat is that? So these 2 legendaries are quite cringily based on Heaven and Hell. Wow. Oh god, that's the more religious Pokemon. Each one has a contained form and a freed form. So this first one is based on a biblically accurate angel. The idea behind this is that it's so angel-like. There's a team trying to free it from its cage, but they don't realize once it's unleashed, it'll try to kill everything because it's horrifically evil, possibly due to a bit of, you know, light mind tampering from the Pokemon going into their brains. Somebody in my comment section actually offered this idea in the last video, and I didn't steal it. These Pokemon had been designed weeks and weeks ago. This commenter somehow hit the nail on the head so perfectly, I got so mad. Anyway, here's the uncontained form. As you can see, it's got a new move called Heartstopper. Can't really remember what this one was meant to do, but I think it was like a psychic type move, more powerful, very small chance to maybe 1-hit KO. Does that even sound healthy for the game? Just random chance to KO? Oh, its name, by the way, is based on the words seraph and strain. So, you know, straining to get out of its cage. Anyway, here's the second legendary called Crystal Meth. It was really, really hard to come up with like a name based on demons or Satan, so I found Mephistopheles and like a friend said Crystal Meth, and I just found it really funny. As you can see, instead of Crystal Meth being contained in a literal cage, it's more like its essence or soul, I don't know, was trapped inside a crystal or a gem or a Chaos Emerald. Unlike Sarah Strain, it doesn't wish to cause harm to anybody, it simply wants to run around and be free and live its life in peace. Its uncontained form doesn't really show this too well, but it was the best I could do at the time. I went through so many designs, I just immediately threw out. This was the one where I was like, I like this design. It doesn't really suit the legendary, but I like this design. It has a new ability called Light Touch, which essentially boils down to entry hazards don't hurt me, ha ha ha. and its new move, Instant Escape, is pretty cool. At least I think so. Crystal Meth takes to the sky, and if going first avoids the enemy's attack. Then it leaves the battle for a few turns, let's say 2 to 5, it's random. In the meantime, you switch in a new Pokemon, so it kind of works like U-turn, and you keep battling with that one. And eventually, Crystal Meth will then swoop down and engulf the opposing Pokemon in Psychic Fire and return to battling in its previous position, butting your active Pokemon back into its Pokeball. So it acts sort of like Future Sight and U-turn together with elements from like Fly. Very complicated, very strange, probably wouldn't work in a kid's game, but hey, this does not exist. And as I said before, here we go, I got 3 extra legendaries for you guys. These are based on more RadicalSoda based characters, that being Bear Grylls, Mr. Incredibazinga, and Cold Dad from Sonic Old. Sun I Cold. If you're new to the channel, don't worry about it too much. These are just characters that I had back in the day, and they still appear every now and again, but anyway, let's begin with Grillbear, based on my, parody of Bear Grylls. As you can see, he's a bear with big claws, and he likes to eat special purple leaves, which gives him his psychic powers. He protects the forest and easily sinks into its depths, making it impossible for him to be found, only to jump out and apprehend any attackers after his forest's resources. Like trying to get his wood, or trying to burn the forest down, or something, I don't know. Anyway, these traits of Grillbear are shown off in his new ability and move. Forest Takeover activates when Grillbear enters the battle, just like the other legendaries. The landscape around the arena turns into a purple forest. Imagine it being like a kind of terrain effect, except it's its own thing. Weather, terrain, and none of that stops this ability. It just goes on in the background. What it does is that it helps Grillbear and its allies have an advantage against fire types. So the forest sends its psychic leaves out to help negate damage. Maybe meaning fire moves do regular neutral damage instead of being super effective. Bushwhack is Grillbear's signature move, and it's a 2-turn move, sort of like Giratina's, where the Pokemon, in this case Grillbear, disappears for the first turn and reappears the second with a surprise attack, going straight through any protect or any other measures. Substitute abilities, it just works, it just goes right through them. Next up is its counterpart, the other box legendary, based on Mr. Incredibazinga. And I realized while writing the script that both the reference image and the Pokemon are making the same expression. That was not on purpose. Incredibazinga here is the definition of neutral chaotic. He's all about causing havoc for his own amusement, sort of like Roadrunner but with access to high-powered explosives. Incredibazinga has an ability that interacts with Grillbears and vice versa, so if Incredibazinga is sent out against Grillbear's already activated forest, the Bombastic Charge will make it so the next electrical fire-type move will burn the forest to the ground, negating its effects. The whole idea of an electric-type move burning it to the ground is because the other effect of Bombastic Charge, like Grillbear has the fire negation, Incredibazinga here basically turns the air around it incredibly volatile, like, I don't know, high amounts of helium, let's say. This means every electric-type move explodes, dealing more damage and dealing splash damage to every Pokemon on the field, including the user and its team. Even status moves like Thunder Wave or Charge have this effect. Same deal with Fire-type moves, it will also have the same effect. It explodes, deals damage, splash. Now, I'd imagine that Grillbear can, like, regrow his forest, and if he's sent in after Incredibazinga, it would, like, I don't know, something would happen. Maybe the forest absorbs the explosive gas in the air. Who knows? I don't care. We're here for the designs mainly, not the freaking abilities. I don't know why I'm bothering to explain all this stuff. Either way, we got the third Pokemon based on Cold Dad. We're called Sonic Old Dad, mix the two names together, and this Pokemon stops the constant war waging between Grillbear and the unaware Incredibazinga, mostly just due to its ability, Chill Out, which completely stops both of their abilities, freezing both the explosive air and the magical forest. The secondary effect of this ability is that all terrain and weather is completely stopped unless it's snow. Just let it snow, baby. And that's it. My goodness, that was a really long time I was recording that, and I want to thank all my Patreons for supporting me through this channel's absolute downfall. We are not going to make it to the end of the year. Anyway, it's very much so appreciated that I can still work on stuff like this that doesn't do quite so well as my other stuff without having to, heavily worry about where my next meal is coming from. And also, thank you to all the talented artists out there drawing my Pokemon. I really love seeing it. If you'd like to post it where I can see it, there'll be a Discord link in the pinned comments below, or if you're on Twitter, I'm not calling it X, there's a link in the description for that too. Is there a better place than Twitter yet? Is that happening? Something I should probably also mention is my Gamersubs code Radical. If you do want to support me, but you're like, I don't want to do Patreon, I want to get physical items for my money, go to Gamersubs, use code Radical. It's delicious, drink it every day, get a waifu cup, it's good stuff. I usually don't take sponsorships, so that's like the only partnership I really have at the moment. Maybe I should take sponsorships, but I ain't doing Raid Shadow, it's just not happening.